for this video I'm going to be changing the valve cover gasket and the intake gaskets down here. Got these here, we got them from rockauto.com. As you can see here, mine seem to be like they're dirty down here. Looks like they're leaking down here. That should be the case, and I don't know if you can tell, the valve cover seems to be leaking too, so this shouldn't be too difficult, knock on wood. And the first thing I'm going to do is take this cover off, disconnect the spark plugs, and disconnect the intake here, and take this cover off, and I'll go step by step with how to do all that. So the first thing you want to do is you want to pull this back. Just like clips. I can expose these cables, and then you're going to want to get in here with like a little screwdriver and pull the little tab gently, and then these things pop right up. And I'll show you how to do that in a second. To release these, all you got to do, this is very simple. There's a little tab in here that's holding it down. All you have to do is stick your screwdriver in this side right here and slightly pry up till you hear a click. Hear that click? That's that clip disengaging. So now all you gotta do is pull up on this and it comes right out. So I've already done all these, and like I said, basically all you do is stick your screwdriver in very lightly, pull on this until you hear a little click, very lightly click, and then you just pull on this guy, this comes out, and then this little rail is gonna pop off. It's being held by these guys, and you're gonna pull that off to the side. And that's step one. And then we're gonna start with all these screws on here, these bolts all along the outside, and we'll go from there. These bolts are T30s, so you're gonna need these star sockets, T30s, and these things don't pop off, just so you know. So they stay engaged in there. So just loosen them up. You don't have to pull them out. Let's go around, go all the way around, take these off, and then we have one back here we're gonna get to, and then we're gonna take these hoses off, and I'll get to that after. Take the sensor off, and I'll get to that after I disengage all these bolts. All right. I lied. I said all these bolts don't come out. This bolt and this bolt does come out, and this one back here is actually a T50. So, so 3 bolts came out on the top, and all these down here stayed in. And now this thing is loose. This thing is loose, as you can see. Now the only thing we gotta do is disconnect this sensor. Disconnect this hose. Looks like the sensor's attached here as well. And then this whole thing will come off. We gotta disconnect these 2. I think these are fuel lines back here. And this cover will come off. Alright, so let me get started on that. Alright, this sensor here is basically the same concept. You basically just want to stick something in here, pry it back very, very gently. Very, very gently, and this pops out. This sensor up here, you don't have to use a screwdriver or anything. You can just push on this tab right here with your finger, push it back, it's very light, and then this comes off. And then there's this hose here. We're looking at it, this right here. If you see this ribbed area here, rib for her pleasure, you just push down on this end, and right on the other side of that as well, it's ribbed as well. So you just basically just pinch it, and you can feel that it comes loose. So it's ribbed on top here and ribbed down below. Pinch that, and then this comes off. And the next thing is these 2 hoses here. Let me figure out how to get these off, and then go from there. Alrighty, this is simple. Let me see if you get comfortable. So this hose here, there is no clip on it, it just slides out. So you just pull it, it slides right out. Then this one here is attached back here. This has this white tab right here on the side. all you have to do is pinch it, push it in. So when it's inside there, you push on that white tab, you can feel it. You can feel it give a little when you push in. You push it and then it slides right out. So look at all the, this is pretty much free. So I'm either gonna, I think I'm just gonna pinch these here, release the tension off this clip and pull it off here. I think it'll just be easier. Because it seems like there's a lot more play on this end than this. This is a little tighter. Go here, pinch this with some channel locks and pull it off. Alright, so once you pinch this, it's very easy. Pinch it with some channel locks. Some of these. And this slides off very easily. And then once that comes off, as you can see, this whole thing is loose. So it's a little heavy. I can't do it with one hand. I guess I can. Slide this thing off here. Set this down for a minute. And here are the gaskets that I'm going to change. These two, and then these four are actually on that piece, which I'm going to clean first. So as you can see here, they're kind of leaking. They don't look good. I'm going to clean this up really well, clean up inside of here so it looks nice and neat. And then this guy is next. So you can see here, it's leaking here, back here, and I think that's why I'm having a bit of a rough start in the morning. Sometimes when it's cold, it doesn't start 100%. Kind of cranks a little too long. So I'm gonna clean that up really well and go from there. So for now, you definitely want to make sure you don't get any dirt in there. The book says to stuff some rags in there just to make sure you don't get it dirty, which I'm going to do right now. Take those old gaskets off, and then when you put them in, you want to put some oil on them, some engine oil. Put them on there, put them back in there, and then we'll put the cover on, but we'll do that last. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this off first, or next, and then clean everything, and then put the gaskets on one at a time. So we'll go from there. You see, so this one here looks like you basically just have these bolts along the outside to take off. We'll disconnect this guy here. Is just hanging on there. This hose is just basically just clamped on here. It's secured onto this guy. Looks like it's secured in here too. It should be just simply pulling that out. And then we'll take this cover off, and then we're gonna do that gasket first. Alrighty. So here's what it looks like on the bottom. So these are the four seals, gaskets that we're going to change out. You can see it's seeping through. Well, not really. It doesn't look too bad on here, except for right here. That's it upside down. It's like this is the only thing that's hanging on to this valve cover. So you want to take this T30 bolt out here, but then in order to take this cover off, you actually have to take this whole entire bracket. See this little bracket that this thing is sitting on? There's a bolt there, and then you have to be able to move this off to the side and expose that bolt down there. So you want to take this bolt off first, this guy, then take that one off, slide this off the side, and take that bolt off. And now we're actually free to take that bolt off here. Otherwise you can't get to it. And then I'm just going to systematically go around taking all these off. And there's some right here. 1, 2, 3. Take those off. Alright, so I got all these bolts loose, and it looks like we gotta take these coils off, obviously. So all you really gotta do is pull them up by hand. And then I think they're interchangeable, but I'm just gonna go ahead and keep them in the same order. And then just gently pull up on them. And then we're gonna take these bolts out, slide this sucker off. Alright, so with all those bolts loose, it was simply a matter of pulling it up nice and gently. And I'm just gonna go around the edges here, clean all that up. Clean the edges up with a clean rag. And then here's what the bottom of that cover looks like. I'm gonna take this gasket off, and then this gasket here in the middle. I'm gonna clean this up, replace those gaskets. First I'm gonna take this, actually I'm gonna flip it over and clean the top. It was greasy and dirty. I have some rags I can use for that. I'm gonna clean that up really well. Then I'll flip it around, take this off, clean the gasket, or replace the gaskets, put some oil on it, some engine oil around it, and then slap it back on. I don't think I'll put oil. I don't think you put oil around this one here. Let me verify, and then I'll confirm that. So first, I'm just gonna clean up around here and go from there. Of this, and I pulled the old gasket off. When I pulled the old gasket off, these bolts kind of just fell through, so just be mindful of that, because the gasket's kind of holding them in. And one bolt fell out, but I have it. So then you just have to put the gasket back in, obviously the flat side facing you. And then what's going to help is hold the gasket down and push the bolts through on every single one. Boom. And it'll hold the bolts in. That'll help keep the gasket down. So just go around, push the bolts through, hold the gasket down flat against the cover, and then do the same for these three. It'll hold in. It'll hold the bolts down, and it'll actually help hold the gasket in when you install it. Then I was mentioning something about grease, putting oil on it. No, you don't have to do all that. I just remembered about the last one that I changed on my truck. I didn't have to do any of that. So everything's clean. The top is clean. I cleaned the surface over here. The surface is nice and clean. And now I'm just simply gonna put it back in, tying the bolts down by hand. I'm not gonna torque them yet. Then I'm gonna work on these gaskets out here next. So notice how everything's clean. The contact surface is clean. I didn't mess with this at all. I don't have anything to do with that, luckily. And go from there. Before you install your valve cover gasket, or your valve cover, excuse me, after you install the gasket underneath, the book says to put some gasket sealant down here. It looks like shit, but I just smeared it on there on that edge, on that corner right here. So this corner here, that corner there, you want to put some gasket sealant. And I basically just used some high temperature gasket, slapped it on there, and now I can put the cover back on. The torque specification is 10 Newton meters for these bolts, and I will show you what the pattern is with some documentation. All right. So I just popped it back on, and it went on very easily. Just had to move this bracket off to the side, move this off to the side, and just gently went in. And like I said, I'm not going to torque it yet. I'm just going to tighten these by hand, just hand tight, just so that it doesn't move on me. And then I actually don't know the torque specs. I got to go pull up the data on the paperwork that I have for VW, the technical information. And just in case you're wondering, if you don't have the book for this Passat, which you probably don't because they don't have it, they don't make one, you can go to VW, go to the website and pay, I think it's 25 bucks or 30 bucks. You get 24 hours of access to their database, and you basically have access to every single piece of technical data that they have on your car. I'll put the link in the video, and I basically just went in there, paid 30 bucks for the day, and just downloaded every single file that they had on every single system of the car, and every technical bulletin. I mean, everything. I have like 9 or 10 folders just full of stuff. So anyway, I'm gonna go ahead and hand tie these. I'm not gonna put the coils in yet, and then I'm gonna get to work down here. I'm gonna clean this up down here because I hate the way that looks, and make sure I don't get any dirt, dust in here, and then go from there. I took off these gaskets, cleaned the surface, and I cleaned the intake. Let me get to that. This is nice and clean, definitely a lot cleaner than it was before. So now I'm going to install the gaskets here, the 4 here, 2 over there, and then put this baby back on there. So let me do that. Documentation says to put some oil around these gaskets, grease them up, and before you slap them back in, don't use oil. Okay, don't use used oil, please. Use fresh, clean oil. So these are all nice and lubed up. I'm just gonna slap them in there, and they have like this little tab on the end here. They have like a little tab. Just want to make sure that they sit in there. Let me see if there's any. Doesn't seem like these can go in wrong. Just make sure that the tab is in there. The tab is on this end and it's sitting flush, and it doesn't seem like it can go in wrong. Okay, when installing these, it looks like there is a right and a wrong way to install these. So you want to have the ridge part up. See this little tab? You want that tab facing up. You want this, both these tabs are going to go up here, because if you look at the valve cover or the intake, excuse me, there's a tab on the top. So when that sits in there, you want that little tab to rest inside of there so that it sits flush. So once again, make sure when you put these two in there, these tabs are up on top. The ridge portion is up on top for this guy to sit on. These can go either way. Just make sure they have a light amount of oil on there. Engine oil, clean, not used. And then you want to take the tissue out, whatever you use in there. Take that out, and we're gonna put that back on and call it a day. Oh yeah, I'm gonna clean over here a little bit, and then we'll go. Oh, I gotta torque this down first. Let me get the torque specifications on that. This is ready to go. This is ready to go. I'm gonna torque this baby and go from there. So the torque specs on this is 10 Newton meters. And here is the pattern. I'll put a diagram on here, but the pattern is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Jump over here to 7. Where's 8? 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, and that is 10 Newton meters. And go from there. Once you torque it, then you want to put this bracket back on. You just want to slap these coils back, and then we're going to throw this back on there. Make sure you take your rags out of there. We're going to flip this over. These are greased up a little, oiled up, and slide it in and connect that down with 10 Newton meters for those bolts too. Alright, so I got the cover back on. Alright, so I got the intake on. Basically, gently put it in, make sure that everything slid in there without a problem. Didn't pinch any of the hoses. Put the exhaust back in, just for this to go in easier. I pinched this up and slid that in there. And what made it easier was the first thing I did was put these bolts in, so I kind of aligned it up properly, and then threw that bolt in but didn't torque it down, and then tighten these up one at a time. And it looks like everything is good now. I connected these hoses again, this one back here, this one here, put this connector back on, this connector back on, put that hose back on, and everything is tightened up. And now the only thing left to do is to connect my coils and start it up and verify that there aren't any leaks and that it runs well. Alright, let me slap these on and then we'll go from there. Okay, so I connected my coils again. I'm gonna leave this cover off for now. I took all my tools off the engine bay. I took this cover and put it off to the side so nothing falls in. I'm gonna start it up. It should start up nice and smooth even though the engine's cold. It should start up real smooth. I'm gonna come out here and check to see if there's any leaks or anything coming out, and then we'll go from there. Alright, this thing started up nicely, beautifully. And so there's oil in here, right? So if this were gasket went on well, There'd be leaks. There'd be seeping at the side. I don't see anything. It shakes a lot. Did everything. My engine was vibrating a lot, and it didn't seem normal at all. If you see right now, the engine isn't vibrating at all. I mean, this thing was like shaking, and I was getting random misfires. So I got random misfire error and a cylinder 3 misfire. So what I did is I went through and I rechecked all these connections. I took all the coils out and I put dielectric grease on them all. Put them all back in, and when I made it, I let it run for a little bit. It was still a little shaky, and then after about 30 seconds it went poof, and then it stopped vibrating, and now it's running fine. So I just checked the error codes. There aren't any more errors, and I cleared the faults. Checked it again, there's no more errors. My check engine light's not on. So if you have that problem where you're getting misfires and the engine is shaking like crazy, stop it. Put some dielectric grease on the coils. Slap it back in there. Make sure everything's seated down there, and let it run for about a minute. And it looks like it should clear itself up. So now it is running smooth. No more errors. No check engine light. And I'm gonna take it out for a test spin. It should be good. Shouldn't be recording and driving, but I wanted to take it out for a test spin and talk about how it feels. So now when I start it, it starts right up. Doesn't hesitate at all. And I guess the true test will be tomorrow morning when the engine's super cold and I try to start it. I leave at 5:30 in the morning, so we'll see how it starts then. But now I could tell that my car is actually running a little better. It just seems a lot smoother. The engine just seems like it's running, it's purring like a kitten, and it feels really good. I don't have any issues. There's no exhaust errors, there's no misfires, and to be honest, this thing is running, it's driving really, really nice. It feels beautiful. So I recently just did a tune-up on it. I changed the spark plugs. The coils were all good, so I didn't change them. I changed the oil recently, the engine oil, and now the valve cover gaskets and the intake gaskets. And this car is running great. You can see I got 137,000 miles on it, and it's running awesome. It feels great. The next thing I'm gonna do is the transmission fluid, and I will be making a video of that too. So I hope my video helped. If it did, subscribe, man, and give me a like, and let me know if it helped you out, man. Thanks.